Evening, Zimbabweans, wherever you may be. I hope that you've had a good weekend. And we are open for business. As usual, it's only me and Wilbert. Good evening, Wilbert. How have you been? How has your weekend been?
Good evening, Sally. My weekend was fine. I hope you had a nice weekend down there in South Africa. Good evening, audience, whoever you are.
And wherever you are. Right. What are we going to discuss
I
tonight?
think I, I think we need to maybe mention that these uh, demonstrations that MDC had called for, so far the government has stepped in and banned them all and use brute force to disperse people. The first comment I would want to make on that one is that the violent dispersion of the demonstrators was totally uncalled for, because none of the videos I have seen was there any sign that the demonstrators were violent. And to use the excuse that the demonstration had been banned, was not allowed, to use that to justify the violence that we saw is an outrage. You know, uh, there was no need to beat up people. You tell them to disperse, and some of them, in fact, were already moving away as soon as they saw the police coming. So why the police had to raid them and start beating them is beyond me. And the second point there is, where are these demonstrations going from here? Where is Zimbabwe going from here? And I think that is an interesting political question that I think Zimbabweans need to seriously think about. And I don't know whether you, Sally, have had any thoughts about it and what you think. Where are we going?
I don't think about that, Wilbert, because I used to. Um, but for me, there's no sign from Zimbabweans that things are going to change anytime soon for the better. As to the demonstrations and the violence, ZANU-PF, if we don't realize by now, after 40 years plus of ZANU-PF, okay, that the minute anybody stands up, okay, and wants to voice their opinion regarding ZANU-PF, they are going to resort to violence. I mean, you just have to look at, what was it, 2008, wasn't it? When was the GNU? Yeah, 2000. When was it? 2008.
2008.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, you've just got to look at that violence. I mean, that violence was completely and utterly over the top. Okay. Um, that's a ZANU-PF sign. Not a sign. That's the way they are. Okay. There's no maybe, or, oh, could they have, or I don't understand it. No, that's who they are. They've showed us that a million and one times, and they'll keep showing it. It's intimidation, the same way as it's always been, because ZANU-PF aren't in power through legality or fairness or anything else. ZANU-PF are in power through violence, intimidation, abduction, rape, killing, That's how they've ruled. They've ruled like that for 40 plus years. Why are they going to change now? They're not going to change. It doesn't matter who you put in there and say, oh, there was a coup. No, it wasn't. It was an inter-party fight. Because Grace Mugabe was suddenly becoming terribly powerful. Okay. And it had to be got rid of. And the guy that is in charge now was Mugabe's henchman. Okay. Mugabe and him would discuss what was going to happen, and he was the one that carried it out. So, I mean, there's no surprise there for me. I don't understand it. No, I understand it. That's how ZANU-PF are. That's who they are. There's nothing to not understand about that. And they use the intimidation when the demos, it don't matter if it's a bunch of grannies with their grandchildren on their backs. ZANU-PF will beat the hell out of them, shoot at them, abduct them, and that's it. They don't care what the rest of the world has to say about it. If Mnangagwa cared, before the elections, when the rest of the world was shouting, put the reforms in, put the reforms in, put the reforms in, he would have done it. Because why? Because he wanted to be accepted by the international community, which would then open the country up for good or ZANU-PF business. Because the cowboy business only caters for ZANU-PF. It doesn't cater for the people and the country. It just caters for the ZANU-PF never-ending pockets that have got holes in them. No matter how much you pour in, they still want more. So, the demos. It was a given thing. The minute you say demo, you know going to come behind it. ZANU-PF kills, ZANU-PF shoots, the police do this, the army gets called in like a private security company to be used against the people. Okay, police are there to supposedly protect and serve the people. All the police do is protect and serve ZANU-PF, nothing else. Nothing else. I mean, the people didn't have any guns. They didn't have a helicopter. I think there's only one helicopter left in Zimbabwe. Okay, I don't think there's more than that. They didn't have water cannons which were donated to Zimbabwe by Israel. Okay? I mean, didn't they know they were going to use the water cannons against the people? And then the problem is, okay, that it's not just water that they're shooting at the people. There's stuff inside that water. So, I mean, the violence is part of the deal. If there are people in Zimbabwe today that don't know that violence is going to come out of a demo, then there's something wrong with them. Because it's a given fact. As to where Zimbabwe is going, the same place it was going yesterday. Nowhere. Those demos are not effective. End of story. There is no question about that. They're not effective. They don't do anything. But what they do is then open up Mnangagwa's favorite thing, abducting people, beating the knickers out of people, arresting people for nothing. Demonstration in Zimbabwe is legal. Okay? It's part of the constitution. You see, even the constitution hasn't been aligned properly. 3/4 of that constitution isn't even been put into place. So, I mean, you can tell without even being, look, I'm just a streetwise woman, okay? That's it. And the minute you say demo, I say, oh, okay, I wonder how many are going to die today or whenever the demo is. What I do not like, and the thing that really frightens me, is the lead up to the demo and after the demo. The demo doesn't, okay, it bugs me, but it doesn't really bug me because you know the MO for that. Okay? You know what's going to happen. The problem is before the demo. It's a new thing. Mugabe didn't do it that much. Okay? Mnangagwa seems to be in it full throw. The abduction of the people, the beating of the people, I mean, now they've started spraying people with things when they abduct them and beat them up, and blisters are appearing and all this kind of business. And now the actions after the demo are still going on. And the arrest of people, I mean, not arrest of 2, 3 people, 80 people, 100 people, 135 people. So, I mean, that is what, you see, that is the perfect scenario for the intimidation and the fear. Not during the demo, it's the before and after. And the after one is lasting longer than it's ever, to me, than it has before. And that is where the intimidation and the control by fear comes in. I mean, where it's going? Nowhere. Same place it was going yesterday. Over to you.
Well, my main concern with the demo is that take for 1 minute that the people this time persist and they go somewhere. The question is, where is the demos going to take us? That is my main concern. At the present moment, from what the MDC have themselves said at their Congress in May, they want to pressure Mnangagwa to form this National Transition Authority, which is basically a replica of the 2008 to 2013 Government of National Unity, the GNU. That GNU failed to implement even one meaningful democratic change. And hence the reason why ZANU-PF was able to rig the 2013 elections and the 2018 elections. So what is the point then of having another GNU that will only give, yes, Shamisa and a couple of his other colleagues in MDC the opportunity to get back on the gravy train? That is the biggest problem we have with some of these demos. These demos, and people have joined them, I think it is no different from what happened 2 years ago when people came out in their hundreds of thousands to support the coup, the military coup, because they thought it was going to bring about the end of the ZANU-PF dictatorship. And not knowing that this was just an internal matter where one faction was finally putting out the other faction. And they invited people to come out in the street, manage them, allow them to march, to give the backing to the coup plotters. And I think people at that time made the mistake of thinking that the coup was going to bring about democratic change. It did not. And then by the same token, these demonstrations people are involved with right now, they're not going to bring about any meaningful political change in Zimbabwe and economic change in Zimbabwe. The kind of economic change we had during the last GNU would be a lot more significant than the kind of economic change we'll have if this National Transition Authority sees the light of day. For the simple reason that in 2008, the economy was in serious trouble. Inflation had reached 500 billion%. There were nothing in the shops. So scrapping the Zimbabwe dollar allowed people to have confidence in trade. And that's all that revived. People were able to now finally go to South Africa and Botswana, buy things, bring them back, and sell them. So Zimbabwe was turned into a big um, nation involved in venting. We were not making anything. The economy was never revived during that time, during the GNU, because the political changes had not occurred. And I believe this time we'll see the same thing again. And because inflation has not yet, at least, reached the same peaks as in 2008, we still have some trade going on. The significant change would not be that much. But that is where the problem I have with these demonstrations. I believe that we could have a situation where, yes, the violence is there. Yes, NOPF is a violent party, but I think people have also reached a point where they are saying, "Kusiri kufando kopi." We are burning on the economic front because the economic situation is getting worse and worse and worse. And the hardships are really hurting people. And so most people are going to these demonstrations because they are desperate to see an end to the hardships, the economic hardships. But in this case here, I think they're just being used by MDC because they will not see any meaningful change in those economic hardships. For the same reason that I've explained, with the last GNU achieved nothing. So we are now in a situation where we could end up supporting demonstrations demanding changes that at the end of the day will wish we had never asked for. And that is the tragedy of Zimbabwe. I think at the present moment, if, for instance, if it was people were going on the street and believing the demonstrations will bring about meaningful economic change, meaningful political change, yes, people will risk the adoption, they risk the beatings because they are already suffering from the economic hardships that they're feeling right now. And they will soldier on and demand more change. But at the present moment, when you know what you're being asked to demand will end up undermining the very thing that you're hoping to achieve, that saps the morale of the people to sustain these demonstrations. And I believe these demonstrations, uh, if they continue, which they may continue, because if FDC, for instance, was to start another cycle of these applications for demonstrations, ZANU-PF can ban them and beat people. And if they keep coming back, there is a limit to how much intimidation even an oppressive regime like that can do. Because at the present moment, particularly when the demonstrators themselves have been so disciplined that they've refrained from throwing even one single stone. All we have seen in the videos of these demonstrations is people running away with shoes left in the street, not a single stone. So for ZANU-PF to keep on saying we are stopping the demonstrations because they'll be violent, I think it's a lie that they themselves know they cannot sustain. No. And in this particular case, if that was, if people had believed the demonstrations was going the right direction, I honestly believe that this would have been a situation where the country would be going somewhere.
No.
Because I think the situation at the present moment is doing nothing with the economy in total economic meltdown is becoming very difficult. You know, as much
Wilbert,
as people,
look, let me tell you something right now, okay? ZANU-PF will use intimidation until, which means it could use intimidation for the next 100 years. The only thing that can get rid of ZANU-PF, get rid of the violence, okay, is the people. Now, what are the people demonstrating for? They're demonstrating to get rid of ZANU-PF and get MDC in. That's all they're demonstrating for. Okay? You say the people are desperate. No, they're not. They're not desperate enough. Okay? They're not desperate enough. They haven't been shoved into a corner. And the only way they're going to get out of that corner is do or die. Okay? The same as they've done in the Sudan. The same that they're doing in the Sudan. Okay? These hit and run demonstrations mean nothing to ZANU-PF. Nothing. They're an irritation because then, well, no, they're not an irritation. ZANU-PF loves blood. It loves it. Because as long as it's flexing its muscle, the people are doing this hit and run stuff. That's why I'm telling you, the people are not desperate enough. This economy, I have been doing this political stuff on Zimbabwe on radio for 10 plus years, okay? And when we started, it was a case of, oh, the economy's in a meltdown. We can say the economy's in the meltdown until the cows come home, okay? Until the people in Zimbabwe say it's enough. Where did those demos take place on that day? Harare, finished. The country was not brought to a standstill. Only demonstrations in Bulawayo were next day or something like that, okay? There are not enough people on the streets for it to hurt ZANU-PF. And I keep saying this. And then the MDC supporters say, oh, well, it messes ZANU-PF up. Look, if it messed ZANU-PF up, ZANU-PF wouldn't be in power. Because this is not the first time there's been demonstrations in Zimbabwe. Look what they did to Changurai, the leader of the MDC. They beat the knickers out of him. He went on the street in public, okay, beaten up and everything else. Did it stop ZANU-PF? Come on. You are not you're not dealing with normality. Please remember that. You are not dealing with normality. You are dealing with people that have no limits. They have to have the power. I mean, have to. The same way that we have to have food to keep alive, ZANU-PF has to have power. And they have no limits. They've shown it to us time and time and time again. These hit and run demos.
That point, Sally, I'm not disputing for 1 minute. But what I'm disputing is two things. Number one, that it doesn't matter how oppressive a regime is, ultimately, it will fall. And this
Yeah, but it's the
ZANU-PF,
people that make it fall. It doesn't fall
no,
by itself.
let me finish the point. Let me finish the point. Ultimately, it will fall. The biggest problem why we have failed to bring down ZANU-PF is that we have had a situation here where we had the people in whom we risk life and limb to elect with the promise that they will bring about democratic changes. And then when they got into power, they sold out, asking
Yeah, but
people
the
to keep
people,
on
you see,
paying.
Wilbert, where you forgetting, the people had the power to demand NDC to carry out what it wanted, what it said it was going to do.
Well,
The
having
people could
power
have
and
pushed it.
yes, having power and knowing when to exercise it are two different things. One of the things that I've said at our Men's Corner forum repeatedly is that the Zimbabwean people themselves have been clamoring for change without ever taking the trouble to understand what that change is. It's one thing saying we want change, change, my hero, and so forth. When you ask them, what change do you want? They didn't understand it. Asking MDC to implement those reforms, yes, they should have done so. But if you don't know what those reforms are, how are you going to ask MDC to implement them? Even some of the leaders like Morgan Tsvangira, I honestly don't think that he had a clue what those reforms are. But they only use that as a stepping stone to get into power. They realize that as long as you tell people will bring about democratic change, that is the hook. They are not articulate enough to say what changes are you going to bring
Oh,
about.
they are.
And when they fail,
Don't
and when they
underestimate
fail to
Zimbabweans.
deliver, sorry?
Don't underestimate Zimbabweans like that, Wilbert. You see, there's something a Zimbabwean would rather face crocodiles and rapists and thugs in South Africa when they cross the Limpopo illegally to get into South Africa, okay, than stand and face ZANU-PF. Those are facts. Those are facts. You can't deny that.
Well,
Okay.
first thing, ZANU-PF is one thing, but what I was talking about here is, did those Zimbabweans understand what democratic changes they
Of
wanted?
course they do. Of course they do. Don't say that they don't. It's easier for them.
Okay,
Look,
if they
we've
did,
got a
then
history.
why did they fail to hold MDC to account when they failed to deliver democratic
Because
changes?
that means they've actually got to do something. And Zimbabweans are not like that. Zimbabweans are people that will find ways to deal with hurdles instead of getting rid of the hurdles. They accept the hurdles and they find ways, because you can criticize me, you can condemn me for saying what I'm going to say, but it's fact. It's there, it's in your face, it's been there for 40 years, okay, plus. They, it's an easier way to find a way to deal with the hurdle than to face the hurdle and deal with that hurdle. So we find ways to deal with it, to go around it, to go under it, to go from the side, to go whatever, rather than say, right, there's a hurdle, we're congregating, we're going to deal with this hurdle, we're going to get rid of it. No. So by the time they get 100 miles ahead, there's 1,000 hurdles that haven't been dealt with, that are still there. And this is what the problem is. They would rather come to South Africa illegally and sleep on the streets and beg and face all the violations and the violence and the even losing their lives than take ZANU-PF on. Those are facts. It's there in our face. And that
Sally,
is what we've got to
still
deal with.
talking. we are still talking of holding MDC, not ZANU-PF.
Yes,
MDC to account.
But the minute they do that, the leadership will then turn on them. They don't.
Leadership? We are talking of MDC here.
Yes, they will become ostracized, okay? Because tell me something. Who within MDC has tried to hold the leadership of MDC accountable? A handful of people. Where is that handful of people today? Okay? Sitting in the desert. This is what I'm telling you. It doesn't matter whether it's the MDC leadership, whether it's ZANU-PF, okay? Even if it's a simple thing, they do not like to face a hurdle and get rid of it. They will find ways to avoid it and move on, and that hurdle will still be there. This is the problem. When MDC were in power, in that not in power, when they were in there in that GNU, okay, with ZANU-PF still in power, but they were supposed to be in a GNU, okay? That was the time that the MDC supporters could have said, right, you said you were going to do this and this and this. You haven't done any of it. Now you better do it. No, they just kept quiet. Just followed along.
And it's because, Sally, it's because they did not know what those reforms are.
They know, Wilbert, come on.
No, they didn't.
Yes, they do.
Well, okay, if you ask some of the MDC, what are those reforms?
They'll tell you.
Even now, with the benefit of hindsight, I speak to a lot of MDC supporters. I can't get any straightforward answer from them.
But can you get a straightforward answer from any Zimbabwean?
Well, okay.
I can't even get a straightforward answer from you.
Why would you risk your own life electing somebody into power? Remember, people were beaten for supporting MDC. People were killed for supporting MDC. Why would you risk your limb and life to put somebody into power and then you say, I know what you're supposed to do, but I'll let you do nothing about it. The truth of the matter is because they believe, just like most people believe, that MDC would know what those reforms are and they will deliver them. And when they fail to deliver them, they could not hold them to account because they themselves didn't know what those reforms are.
They know.
We could argue
they know, Wilbert.
But that is at the root.
No, it's not. The root of the matter is that Zimbabwe, you see, they died and everything else for MDC, okay? Once MDC got into that GNU, as far as they were concerned, that was it. Because what the problem is, and I'll say it for a million more years, the minute there is power in place, okay, they don't hold that power accountable because to them, they become starstruck in a very simple, streetwise way of speaking, okay? They become starstruck. So now that power is there, you carry on, okay? We'll still run across the border and face all the rapists and the killers and the thugs and the crocodiles and when what's his name goes and flood, the river goes and flood. We'll face the flooded waters, don't matter. We'll pay 500 American dollars, okay, to get across the border illegally. But we won't hold our representatives, our party heads, and the government accountable. Because that calls for a commitment that seems, there's a short circuit there somewhere where, yes, we'll put you in power, we'll die to put you in power, or whatever, okay. But once you're there, no, now we don't have any more responsibility. They know. I speak to lots. Well, most of my family is MDC, okay? And other people that I know that are here in South Africa, okay? You ask them about the reforms, they'll tell you. They'll tell you. Okay? The problem is the commitment to do or die. They had it during the war, the liberation war, but now all of a sudden that commitment is gone. There isn't a commitment anymore. That's the problem. And it's always been the problem. There is any dictatorship anywhere in the world is brought down by the power of the people. It's not brought down by a melting economy. It's not brought down by an international community unless they come and interfere, okay? Which they don't here in Africa, very seldom. It depends if you've got oil. If you've got oil, then they'll come and interfere, but otherwise they leave you alone. So here in Africa, to get rid of a dictatorship depends on the power of the people. Nothing else. And that's the problem. ZANU-PF will only be brought down by the power of the people, nothing else. The economy can melt. Come on, there isn't an economy. It's melted down. There's nothing. It's limping. It's been limping for God knows how long. But it'll keep on limping. Until the people decide, right, that's it. We want our country back. We want our power back. And we're going to get it. Until then, where's Zimbabwe going? The same place it was going yesterday. And where have you gone, Wilbert?
I'm still here. I'm still here.
You see, we need other people in here, not just you and me.
Yeah.
You see, it's another thing now. To get people to come in onto the panel. If it's a radio show, glitz and glamour to it. Okay, this is just me talking cuck with you that's willing to talk cuck with me. To find commitment from other Zimbabweans. No, it's difficult. I know. I watched DJ Soza when he was doing the men's corner. I watched him getting people to commit. Zimbabweans to commit to come to the show, give up 2, 3 hours, 4 hours sometimes. Okay. It's difficult. Yeah. It is. It's very, very difficult. If it wasn't, people would be fighting to come up and talk here, Zimbabweans. Because there's no political connotation here. There's no limitation. None whatsoever. Like a radio show, there's limitations. Here, there's no limitations. They can talk their mind. They can discuss anything and everything. But to get that commitment for them to come and do it when it's not a glitzy glamour place, very, very difficult. You and I don't care whether there's glitz and glamour. We just want to talk about the situation in Zimbabwe. Others want the glitz and the glamour to come and talk. We don't. We just need it to get out there, and we need to be able to have our voice, and that we have. It's the whole thing is a mess, Wilbert, and to say that where are we going? I had no idea because there's no indication of going anywhere. None. We can wish and we can hope and we can have opinions and we can make suggestions, but it's meaningless in a way because where it needs to come from is not doing it. Look at those Harare demonstrations. How many people were there? How many people were in that demo, Wilbert?
Well, I don't know. I thought it's not so much the quantity, sadly. It's more of, if you had, like I said, if those demonstrations were going to achieve the right thing, I would still would have joined the demonstrators myself. I would have encouraged my own contacts in Zimbabwe, Bulawayo, Kwero, and so forth to go and join. But that demonstration is demonstrating, is calling for the wrong thing. And that I cannot support. And I think there are.
But what else is it going to call for?
With the same view.
Wilbert, what else is it going to call for? Tell me. There's nothing else that it can call for.
The whole point here, where we are now, we have just had last year a rigged election. Now, you have got to accept MDC. They knew that ZANU-PF was going to rig those elections. Why did they participate? Because MDC.
No, I'm not going down that rabbit hole. I'm not going down that rabbit hole.
Let me finish, Sally. Let me finish. You ask me a question and I'll answer it. No, good. As long as they participate, ZANU-PF is going to give away a number of grave trends, and that has been MDC's position ever since the failed GNU. and even some of the other people like Obed Gutu, who were in the MDC until they fell out just before the elections last year, even now they are now saying Zimbabwe is a multi-party democracy. They know that as long as they keep in good books with ZANU-PF, they will be they're placing themselves in line two of those few seats that ZANU-PF gives away as a bribe for the opposition to keep participating in the elections, regardless how flawed the process happens to be. We are now stuck in a situation where we are saying the international community went and they said those elections were not free and fair. We also can look at the reality on the ground. It didn't even have a verified voters roll. How you can possibly say you had an election when you don't even have a verified voters roll? You don't know who voted. It's a joke. That is what we are looking at. That is what we have got to accept. Yet MDC that the elections were, with disregarding all those irregularities, they were fine as far as the parliamentary elections are concerned. They are only disputing the presidential for no other reason other than to push ZANU-PF into this power sharing so that they can be given up. They can also have more of the spoils of the rigged elections. That's all. And as long as people don't appreciate what is going on, that MDC have changed tactic, that MDC has now been running with the hare and hunting with the hounds, they will always find themselves being shortchanged. Just as they were shortchanged by Mnangagwa and his coup plotters. You know,
how many people were at the demonstration? How many people were at the demonstration?
Which demonstration?
This last demonstration.
I don't know. I don't know.
Say, and I'm being generous, 500 people?
Okay, 500 people.
That's nothing. If the people were fed up and they'd had enough, the whole country would have demonstrated. This rubbish of...
Sally, that point we keep going back to it. But that's what I've said to you as well. That if you do not believe in the what the demonstrations are for, where would you
No,
go?
it's got nothing to do with believing or not. It's got to do with the people in Harare are demonstrating. Why must we demonstrate? There we are. It's as simple as that. When I was speaking to people throughout the country during the time of those demonstrations, they all said the thing that shocked us is that there's no demonstrations nationwide. So I said, well, why didn't you organize demonstrations in your part? No, nobody wanted to do it because they were doing it in Harare. There we are. A perfect example. Perfect example. Leading up to the coup, what was the slogan leading up to the coup? Mugabe must go, Mugabe must go, Mugabe must go. If you dared turn around and say, that's wrong. ZANU PF must go. The people said, we're going to start with Mugabe, then we'll deal with the rest of it. Please. How are you going to deal with the rest of it? Having hit and run at the most 500 people at a demonstration in one city. Nowhere else. Good luck. Because I ain't seen a dictator removed in Africa through that. Even then, why only 500 people? You mean to tell me that MDC has only got 500 supporters? In Harare? No. The attitude is, well, you demonstrating, so why must I do it? You're going to do it for me. And look, what are they going to demonstrate for but what they are demonstrating for now? Because there's nothing else. There's nothing else. There's nobody rising up, okay, to challenge MDC as an opposition party. There's MDC, finished, period, end of story. There's nobody else. So what are the demonstrators demonstrating? For MDC. There's nothing else they can demonstrate for. And it's just a handful of people compared to the support that MDC says it has. It's a handful of people in one place. Man, it don't work. Those are the things that are wrong. People know what is supposed to be done. They just don't have the commitment to get it done. It's always somebody else's duty, somebody else's job. It's as simple as it is. We're the ones that complicate it. Over to you. Oh, Wilbert has disappeared. Oh dear.
Hello, Sally. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, what happened?
My mobile phone battery was getting low and I didn't realize that. So it dropped out on me. My apologies.
That's fine. And I'm sitting here waffling away and wondering why there's this deathly hush. And then I look, oh, there's no more wheel bits. There's Sally doing solo.
My apologies. It just
No, it's not a problem.
It just blinked. That's it.
Yeah. Anyway, I think, please, a quick wind up.
Yep.
Okay, because we're now going into nearly an hour, and I think it's too long for two people to back and forth.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll have a wind up of whatever. Over to you.
Yep. Okay. My final message to the people of Zimbabwe who may be listening to this discussion is that the understanding of what is going on is at the very heart of our political and economic problems. I think there have been many opportunities for Zimbabwe to end this ZANU-PF dictatorship with all its power and cunningness and ruthlessness. But we have failed to capitalize on those opportunities because first of all, the people we elected to implement the reforms that would have changed or would have ended the ZANU-PF dictatorship, those people sold out. And I think on our part as the people, we're so far behind that we failed to hold those people to account. And even now, with hindsight, we still fail to see that those people let us down. And as long as we remain weak in that regard, we will never have any meaningful democratic changes in Zimbabwe. We'll be blundering from pillar to post, and the country will sink deeper and deeper into the morals. So understanding what is going on is at the very heart of our problem. And if we want to get out, we have to address that weakness. We have to take the trouble to understand what is really going on here. What will MDC demonstrations achieve, rather than have faith that it will achieve something. And that, I believe, is also one of the reasons why sustaining these demonstrations would become very difficult. Because as long as people are not convinced that there's going to be any meaningful change, the commitment will never be there. And that makes it very difficult to achieve anything, particularly in the public sphere. That is the tragedy of Zimbabwe. Thanks very much, Sally, for hosting today's show. I know we were only two people discussing it, but
you don't want to listen. You don't want to listen to my closing argument.
No, I think you should give your closing argument. It is important. In fact, that maybe somebody will listen to it tomorrow or the day after, or in prosperity. That's fine. I think you should say
exactly. I mean, look, it's for me. I don't care if whatever we don't become popular or anything. But at least there's a record of it for history. Okay. Now, my closing argument. For 30 years, I've tiptoed around the Zimbabwe people, the issue, everything. I've been polite. I've been gentle. I've danced around it and everything like everybody else. A year ago, maybe a little bit more, I decided, I'm tired of that now. It's meaningless. I'm going to hit it straight on. People that are going to hate me already, okay? Maybe a few more will hate me. I don't care anymore because it's got to the stage where it's life or death. Okay? And the only thing that's going to change Zimbabwe is when Zimbabweans themselves decide that commitment isn't an evil word, and following through to the end, no matter what you have to go through, but to get to the end, which is get ZANU-PF in power, out of power, get MDC in and hold the leadership accountable. till they decide those things are important, there will never be change. The people are the ones that bring about the change. And they know that. They know it. It's just they're too lazy to make that final step. And until they do, how's Zimbabwe going to go forward? Like it did yesterday. Because the best prediction of future is the past. And the past is disastrous. How many demonstrations have we had? How many times have people been beaten up and abducted? The people aren't tired of being beaten up and abducted for nothing. Because at the end of the day, the truth is that those people that died and got abducted and beaten up and violated, the woman that got raped, okay, not just by one or two, but by 10, 15 men, okay, have suffered for nothing. Nikki's zero. Zilch. Because we're still in the same situation that we were when they gave their lives and gave their bodies, okay, for the cause. What cause? To put MDC in power. MDC have failed the people. I don't care what anybody says. They failed the people. And the people have failed MDC. Because at the end of the day, they've said, right, you there in power, you are representing me, okay, and that's it. That's where my commitment ends, to put you in power to represent me. Follow up after that, nah, jump across the border, save up money, sell cattle, whatever, okay, to get money for a ticket to get out of Zimbabwe on a plane to some other country and become an illegal immigrant, to sleep on the streets, to be abused and violated and everything, killed in many circumstances here in South Africa. I don't want to die on foreign soil. I want to die for fighting for my country. I don't want to die in foreign soil because I ran away. This is what Zimbabweans, this is the mantra that Zimbabweans should have in their minds. I'm going to die in a foreign country because I don't want to die in my country, freeing my country. That's the whole thing. International community don't care anymore. They're tired of it. They're tired of Zimbabwe. Because when they do try and do something, okay, it all goes. It's like a firework that you've put in water. You expect when you light it, it's going to go here, bang. No, it just goes poof, and there it is. And this is exactly what the international community, I'll tell you something now, international community don't give a damn about Zimbabwe anymore. There's nothing in Zimbabwe for the international community to want. Nothing. We don't have oil. We don't have, there's nothing. So they don't fight for us anymore. Because we are lost cause. So, you want change? You start with the people. And the people have to make the commitment. Without the commitment, it's never going to change. We see what we've been swimming in. Anyway, just my thoughts. And now, thank you very much, Wilbert, for putting up with my rantings and railings like you do. I will fight you every way. I have to. I'm supposed to be the opposition. We can't have a discussion where we both agree with each other all the time. Okay, it doesn't work that way. So I thank you very much for giving up your time here, and I hope that in the future we'll end up with more people up on panel, and the discussion will be more open and varied. And to Zimbabweans, wherever you are, I wish you all a good night, a good day, good afternoon, good whatever, and a happy working week. Be good to each other, and may your gods go with you. Good night. We'll see you again Sunday, same time, same place. Thank you.
Thank you, Saleh.
Thank you, Wilbur. Take care.
And good night, everybody.